Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, US asks Israel to take every precaution to protect civilians after a military strike in Rafah. Israel says Rafah strike went tragically wrong and will be investigated. Russia to build Central Asia's first nuclear power plant in an agreement with Uzbekistan. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi criticizes opposition for promoting religion-based reservations. Asserts after the removal of Article 370, the feeling of belongingness is increasing among the people of Kashmir. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that the airstrike in the southern Gaza city of Rafah was not intended to cause civilian casualties and that the incident will be investigated. Netanyahu also reiterated his commitment to bring back all Israeli hostages taken by Hamas on October 7th. Israel on Monday carried out military operation targeting a Hamas compound in Rafah, which caused a fire in the area, resulting in death of at least 45 people.
In Rafah, we already evacuated about 1 million non-combatants residents, and despite our utmost effort not to harm non-combatants, something unfortunately went tragically wrong. We are investigating the incident and will reach conclusions because this is our policy.
On the new challenge.
Meanwhile, Israel's military operation in Rafah has sparked controversy as civilian casualties raise concerns. The United States has urged Israel to protect civilians following the Rafah strike. A U.S. National Security Council spokesperson on Tuesday said, and I quote him, Israel has the right to go after Hamas, and we understand this strike killed 2 senior Hamas terrorists who are responsible for attacks against Israeli civilians. But as we've been clear, Israel must take every precaution possible to protect the civilians. All right, DD India's Sarah Coates joins us live from Tel Aviv. Sarah, good morning. Now, we've seen that Israel has admitted that Rafah strike went tragically wrong and it will be investigated. Let us get more from you. Put into perspective for us, how grave or significant is this admission by Israeli leadership?
Well, it is a grave admission, of course, but we have seen these type of scenarios before. The Israeli Prime Minister, the IDF, has come out to say that they will engage the fact-finding mechanism, an independent body of the Israeli military, to investigate just what happened here. But as you mentioned, international condemnation over this incident on Sunday night in an area that was declared a safe zone is growing. We do need to remember 45 people were killed. Doctors on the ground say they expect that number to rise. And you just need to look at these absolutely horrific images, people being absolutely burnt alive. Doctors on the ground say that they were torn to shreds. Now, the European Union has for the first time discussed placing sanctions on Israel as a possible measure if it doesn't comply with this ICJ ruling that was handed down around a week ago. And also, the United Nations Security Council is set to hold a closed-door meeting a little later today at the request of Algeria. So certainly this can really be seen as a potential tipping point, a turning point in this conflict, and of course, really dwindling support of Israel.
All right, Sarah, the United States has also urged Israel to protect civilians. Now, protection and safety of civilians has always been a concern. But with such a strike happening, will it somewhere have an effect on the international response towards Israel-Hamas conflict?
Well, we are already seeing that. As I mentioned, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he insists that the military does take every possible precaution to protect civilians that are caught up in this fighting. But once again, these incidents that really have been happening on a more regular basis, many people killed, are really highlighting the dire situation right now in the Gaza Strip and really piling pressure on the Israelis. And also, we do need to remember a lot of these countries that are now coming out against Israel were allies, so support is certainly slipping away. And one other thing we need to remember is support for Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, is not just slipping away internationally, but also domestically as protests pick up around the country over what's perceived as his inability to bring back these remaining 120 or so Israeli captives that have been held now in Gaza for more than 230 days. People are demanding that he step down. So certainly he is under intense pressure.
All right, Sarah, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. And Yemen's Houthis said on Monday that they had launched attacks on 3 ships in the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea and the 2 U.S. destroyers in the Red Sea. Now, the group said that the ships were the Larigo Desert and the MSC Mekela in the Indian Ocean and the Minerva Lisa in the Red Sea. Now, the Houthis military spokesperson Yahya Sari said that the group had used missiles against the ships and drones against the U.S. destroyers. Russia will build a small nuclear power plant in Uzbekistan, the first such project in post-Soviet Central Asia, Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev said on Monday at a meeting with visiting Russian President Vladimir Putin. Putin said Russia would put $400 million into a joint investment fund of $500 million to finance projects in Uzbekistan. Now, according to Kremlin, Russian state nuclear firm Rosatom will build up to 6 nuclear reactors with capacity of 55 megawatts each in Uzbekistan, a much smaller scale project than the 2.4 gigawatt one agreed in 2018, which still remains to be finalized.
The protocol signed today introduces amendments into 2018 agreement, which allows to construct a small nuclear power plant in Uzbekistan in lines with the modern Russian technologies. These, I would like to stress it, are consistent with the most strict demands of safety and protection of environment.
French President Emmanuel Macron urged Europeans to defend themselves better against enemies, not just rely on the US. Macron visited Dresden as part of his 3-day official visit to Germany. He also called for the EU budget to be doubled for necessary investments after the upcoming European elections, but left the exact funding open. Macron added that Europeans need to define more clearly who the enemies are and how they can protect themselves against them.
Nous devons bâtir ensemble
everything that makes a more independent, more sovereign Europe. A Europe that can defend itself and stand up for itself. A Europe that can survive in the face of all threats. This is what we must build now. This is the possible Europe of peace and common security.
US President Joe Biden honored fallen service members during the 156th observance of the Memorial Day at Arlington National Cemetery outside the nation's capital. Biden was accompanied by Vice President Kamala Harris and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. The Memorial Day ceremony is the latest in a string of events where Biden has focused on active and retired military personnel, including delivering the commencement speech on May 26th at the U.S. Military Academy in West Point, New York. Next week, Biden will travel to Normandy, France, to participate in ceremonies marking the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. Former U.S. President Donald Trump is due in a New York courtroom again on Tuesday for what may be the final week of a trial in which he is accused of falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to a porn star. It's time for the lawyers to give their final arguments before the jury that will have to decide on a verdict, guilty or not. Caroline Malone gets us more.
It's been 6 weeks of courtroom drama in the first major criminal trial against Donald Trump. 22 witnesses, loads of evidence, hours of cross-examining. And some of those witnesses have given salacious testimony, including former adult film star Stormy Daniels, who described a night that she had with Trump in which she drew attention to the power imbalance. Then there was Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, himself already convicted, who said in the case that Trump got him to make a payment to Daniels to stop her from going public with the story. Well, on Tuesday, lawyers for both sides are due to give their closing arguments. The prosecution will try and convince the jury that Trump is guilty of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. One factor that could make a difference, are these the personal or business payments, and are they related to the campaign? And what did the financial records actually show, and were they actually falsified? Of vital importance, though, is how believable the jury finds Michael Cohen, whose evidence is really at the crux of this case. And it's a very important case too, of course, featuring one of the two likely major candidates for the next US presidential election, which will decide who gets into the White House. Caroline Malone, Washington, for DD India.
And now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. Severe storms and tornadoes have swept through various states over the United States. Over the weekend, tornadoes spawning thunderstorms that swept the southern plains have killed at least 20 people across 4 US states, wrecked hundreds of buildings as forecasters warned of more severe weather. North Korea's attempt to launch a new military spy satellite ended in failure on Monday when a newly developed rocket engine exploded in flight. An initial analysis suggested that the cause was a newly developed liquid-fueled rocket motor, but other possible causes were being investigated. 7 more mobile force units will soon arrive as reinforcements in New Caledonia. The authorities also indicated to end the state of emergency as planned in the French Pacific Territory on Tuesday. 7 people have been killed, hundreds arrested in a fortnight of upheaval triggered by a contested electoral reform in New Caledonia. Argentine authorities found the body of a 19-year-old German citizen who went missing while trekking in western Argentina. Julia Horn's body was discovered during a helicopter search in the Tres Marias Hills. Authorities said that despite various ground efforts, experts were able to locate her body on Monday due to the favorable weather conditions. The head of the World Health Organization on Monday expressed confidence that the countries would one day reach a deal on a pandemic accord after failing to produce an agreement last week. Ministers from WHO's 194 member states are seeking to wrap up more than 2 years of negotiations on new rules for responding to pandemics during May 27 to June 1st World Health Assembly in Geneva after COVID killed millions. Negotiators failed to produce a draft deal on Friday for formal approval by the Assembly this week. Negotiations are still ongoing for an update to existing health rules on outbreaks, and negotiators say that a deal is close. During the session, WHO member states decided not to invite Taiwan to the organization's annual assembly after China appealed for it to remain sidelined. Taiwan is excluded from most international organizations because of objections by China.
Of course, we all wish that we had been able to reach a consensus on the agreement in time for this held assembly and cross the finish line. But I remain confident that you still will, because where there is a will, there is a way. I know that there remains among you a common will to get this done.
You're watching DD India Live. Up next, we're heading for a short break. But after the break, campaigning gains momentum as India gears up for the 7th and final phase of parliamentary elections on 1st of June. Voting to be held in 57 parliamentary seats across 8 states and union territories. First anniversary of new parliament building, significant milestone in Indian democracy. In French Open, 14-time winner Rafael Nadal knocked out in the first round, loses to Alexander Zverev in straight sets.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live and I'm Preeti. Let's continue getting you more updates. Taking on the opposition parties, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that they believe that they have the right to abuse and that he has become resilient to insults after being continuously abused for the last 24 years. In an exclusive interview to news agency ANI, Prime Minister said that opposition parties have become so frustrated that now abusing has become their nature.
जहाँ तक मोदी का सवाल है, मैं तो पिछले 24 साल से गालियाँ खा करके गाली प्रूफ हो गया हूँ। मौत का सौदागर किसने कहा था? गंदी नाली का कीड़ा किसने कहा था? और मेरे यहाँ तो पार्लियामेंट में एक दिन हमारे एक साथी ने हिसाब लगाया था, 101 गालियाँ गिनाई थी। तो चुनाव या चुनाव न हो, ये लोग मानते हैं कि गालियाँ देने का हक उनका ही है, और वे हताश निराश इतने हो चुके हैं कि गालियां देना, अपशब्द बोलना, ये उनके शायद जहन में है, उनके स्वभाव में हो गया है।
When asked about the last stage of the Lok Sabha elections, Prime Minister took a dig at opposition, saying that this will be the last stage as far as their tall claims and dreams are concerned.
आखिरी दौर शब्द प्रयोग किया आपने, मुझे उसमें बहुत सी चीजें नजर आ रही है। एक, हमारा एक नया दौर शुरू होगा, उसका उसके अंदर संकेत है। दूसरा, जो लोग बड़े सपने देख करके बड़े वादे कर रहे थे, उनके लिए भी आखिरी दौर है। तो चुनाव का आखिरी दौर ऐसा है, उनकी स्थितियों का भी आखिरी दौर है।
On his decision to remove Article 370, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that after the removal of 370, the feeling of belongingness is increasing among the people of Kashmir and hence its direct result is also visible in elections and tourism.
ये अपने फायदे के लिए ये 370 की ऐसी एक दीवार बना के बैठे थे ताकि कोई झोंक न पाए, और कहते थे 370 हटेगी तो आग लग जाएगी। वो कहते थे 370 हटेगी तो कश्मीर चला जाएगा। आज ये सत्य हो गया कि 370 हटने के बाद ज़्यादा एकता की अनुभूति हो रही है, कश्मीर के लोगों का अपनापन ज़्यादा बढ़ रहा है, और इसलिए इसका सीधा परिणाम चुनावों में भी दिखाई देता है, टूरिज्म में दिखाई दे रहा है। G20 समिट वहाँ होती है, बड़े शान से कश्मीर ने उनका स्वागत किया पूरी दुनिया का, और इसलिए ये कैसे झूठी दीवारें खड़ी कर करके देश को टुकड़ों में देखा गया, इसका ये उदाहरण है, और उसको मैंने ध्वस्त किया है।
And now we get to the latest on the world's largest election in India. Fifty-seven constituencies across 8 states and union territories will vote on 1st of June in the 7th and the last phase of India's parliamentary election. 904 candidates will be in the fray, 13 seats each in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab, 9 in West Bengal, 8 in Bihar, 6 in Odisha, 4 in Himachal Pradesh, 3 in Jharkhand and 1 seat in the union territory of Chandigarh will go to polls on 1st of June. Election results will be announced on 4th of June. Campaigning has intensified for the final phase of polling on 1st of June. Political leaders are holding rallies across the country. BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is to address rallies in Jharkhand and West Bengal. Home Minister Amit Shah will hold rallies in Odisha. BJP President JP Nadda will visit Himachal Pradesh, where he will hold a convention and meet locals in Shimla. For its part, the opposition is making a last-ditch attempt to woo the voters in its favour. Chief of Congress Party, Mallikarjun Kharge, will hold rally in Punjab. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi addressed a public meeting in Hamirpur in Himachal Pradesh. And also a joint rally of Congress leader Rahul Gandhi and Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav will hold a joint rally in Varanasi. It is often said that if you want to see the transformational journey of Varanasi, take a tour of different ghats of the holy city Kashi. DD India's Deepika sends us this special report on the ghats of Kashi that depicted the journey of transformation, keeping intact the glorious past and cultural representation of India as one of the oldest cities that goes to polls on 1st of June.
Well, Varanasi is one of the oldest cities of India. And when we talk about transformation, many say that visit the ghats of Varanasi and see how Varanasi has transformed over the past years.
Varanasi or Kashi is one of the oldest living cities in the world. The numerous ghats of the city are a standing testimony to its rich cultural and spiritual past. Now, the city is witnessing a subtle yet important change in its landscape and infrastructure. From having the oldest temples to its first ever floating CNG pump, it is now all set to inaugurate 3 helipads on the ghat. The city is witnessing a growing economy accompanied with rapid development, cultural heritage, and its religious legacy. The ghats are providing employment opportunities not only to men but also women.
Been living here since childhood. Kashi wasn't like this before. It was very dirty. The ghat have been developed in the past years. This is giving us employment. It is all given by Modi ji. We want his government to come.
We have seen a lot of changes. Kashi has changed. The government is giving us all. I now want more opportunities for us, so that we can work whatever we want to and earn for ourselves.
Ferry boats have now become a major source of employment apart from being a big tourist attraction.
Kashi has changed a lot. From Kashi corridor to development on all ghats, we now also have a helipad point over here. It has seen a transformational journey.
The culture and tradition mixed with modern facilities make Kashi the perfect destination for domestic and foreign tourists.
I wish that we could have spirituality schools here in Kashi. Spirituality should be inculcated officially in all the youngsters here. Since this is Kashi, the land of gods, it is important to have official spiritual schools in Kashi for the young generation.
Kashi or Varanasi will go to the polls on June 1st in the last phase of Lok Sabha elections 2024, and people of Kashi aim to vote for development, stability and increased income sources for themselves.
The divine city of Kashi is not just a tourism spot, but this city depicts the rich cultural heritage of India. This is one of the oldest city which is now witnessing a transformational journey across Varanasi. With camera person Sanjeev, this is Deepika reporting from Kashi for DD India from Assi Ghat.
Today, we mark a significant milestone in Indian democracy. 1 year ago, on May 28, 2023, the new Parliament building was inaugurated, ushering in a new era for our nation's legislative process. Let's revisit the journey and milestones of this architectural marvel that stands at the heart of New Delhi, symbolizing the strength and growth of the world's largest democracy, in Kirat Chawla's report.
28th May, a historic date in the history of Indian democracy. It was on this day, in 2023, the new Parliament building was inaugurated. The state-of-the-art building, which is part of India's Central Vista redevelopment project, now houses the Lok Sabha, lower house and the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of the Indian Parliament, with provisions for further expansion amidst the growing needs of the world's largest democracy. The new Parliament House was first used for official business on September 19, 2023, when a special session was convened. A year has passed since the grand building located in the heart of India's capital New Delhi was dedicated to the nation. Amidst the grandeur as it now stands in its splendor, charting the course of India's future from its premises, here is a glance at the timeline of the building that epitomizes the largest democracy of the world. On September 2019, the master plan for redevelopment of Central Vista Avenue was conceived. The Tata Projects Limited won the contract for the construction of the new Parliament building in September 2020. The architectural consultancy work of the building was won by HCP Designing Plan in October 2020. It was on December 10, 2020, the foundation stone of the new Parliament building was eventually laid. On July 11, 2022, the statue of the country's national emblem was unveiled on top of the new Parliament building. The main structure of the new Parliament was finally completed on 28 August 2022. Finally, on May 28, 2023, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the new Parliament building along with his fellow parliamentarians. And on September 19, 2023, a special session was convened in the new Parliament building, marking the official functioning of the new building. Designed to be earthquake resistant, the building features large seating capacities in both chambers, 888 seats in the Lok Sabha and 384 in the Rajya Sabha. Unlike the old building, it does not have a central hall, but the Lok Sabha chamber can house 1,272 members during a joint session. The Lok Sabha chamber also houses the Senghal, gold-plated silver sceptre, which marked the transition from the old to new building, establishing the latter as the new officer of governance of the Indian democracy. In its first year, the new Parliament building has already witnessed significant legislative activities, including the passage of the Women's Reservation Bill, marking a new era in India's democratic journey.
In sports, tennis legend Rafael Nadal on Monday virtually ruled himself out of a final appearance at Wimbledon this year, saying it will not be smart to do so before the Olympics. Nadal lost in the first round of the French Open to Alexander Zverev 6-3, 7-6, 6-3 in what many believe was his final appearance at the French Open. Zverev became only the third man to beat Nadal at Roland Garros after Novak Djokovic and Robin Soderling. Though he did not confirm his decision to retire, Nadal potentially bowed out of the French Open one last time with a first-round defeat against Zverev. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on your screens to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.